unseen, undiscovered. I'm the one to make your heart sing. I am the one. I'm the beauty that emerges from the shadows of the unknown, revealed, displaying itself through the you the world already knows. The you the world awaits. I'm the one. As the flame flickers and falters, slowly leaving you breathless, I am the one. The one to breathe the fire of life back into the fibers of who you are. The one that blows a gentle breeze of sun in your eyes when the day brings the less hoped for. I, my friend, am the one. As the threads unravel, yes, that's me, the one to weave the magic tapestry you once knew. I am the one to see the veil as it comes disguised, invisible, enveloping, smothering your very being. Yeah, I'm the one to see it. I am the one to discover the answers to unspoken words, questioning, wondering, hoping. I am the one that creates, gives birth to, develops blowing love into you, permeating your soul. I'm the one that stands for you when you won't, refuse, cry, defy, and lie, and turn your back on you. I'm the one standing for you. I'm the one who moves through the obstacles and continues in your days of darkness. A friend, you ask? Oh, yeah, I'm the one for that. I'll shower your mind with energy that feeds the spirit of others. I'll open your heart to dream yesterday's dream and fulfill tomorrow's desire. I'll bring your future alive to be lived now. I'm the one that's always been there, that's all of a sudden here. I've always been there. Here I am, right here, now. I'm you. You see, the power lives within you, and it's always been there. Welcome to the P3 Power Boost radio show, where we bring power, passion, and purpose to your home, office, and vacation spot. I'm Lisa Thomas, your host, and today's show we will talk about vision and what it takes to create a successful business. So all of the listeners who want to create a successful business that you're passionate about can enjoy while you're doing something meaningful. This show is for you. So we're going to talk also a little bit about giving thanks as well in this particular segment. Our vision is every woman lives a life of power, passion, and dreams come true. And our show's mission is to reach 1 million women to nurture their spiritual, emotional, and physical selves, to enhance their personal and professional lives. And many of you may remember me talking last week about our show being based in the P3 circles of life, the spiritual self, emotional self, and the spiritual self. And I'm going to give you another brief overview about those circles of life in just a little bit, but I'd like to introduce our guests, or better yet, allow them to introduce themselves, or in this case, herself, because we have one young lady. Lalita Amos is on the phone with us from Indianapolis, Indiana. She's a passionate, powerful, and incredible businesswoman.
Oh, my gosh.
Who I just love and adore. And we're excited. We've both been talking about this show now for a little bit this morning, and we've just gotten completely turned on by what we're going to be talking about. So I'm excited to have Lalita.
Well, hi, Lisa.
Hi there.
Now, you're in Atlanta. Is that where you're calling in from?
I'm in Atlanta.
I'm sure it's a whole lot warmer than the, I don't even want to say what our temperature is up here. But
wait, yes, it was 75 yesterday.
Okay, that's enough out of you. Hey, listen, it was lovely to hear I Am the One again. I'd had a copy of that poem from several years ago that you had sent me, and it was delightful to hear it again.
Thank you so much. It's something that I wrote for women to inspire them to live their vision, so I'm excited that, to be able to read it.
Absolutely. Should I offer a little bit by way of introduction about myself?
Yes,
okay.
A little bit about you.
So let me talk about the mischief that I create over here. I think you had said before in some introductory information about me that, I worked in all areas of human resources. I was an internal management consultant for a number of years. I had the stock option and all of that. And I remember driving to work one day, an hour away. The Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers song came on, Refugee, You Don't Have to Live Like a Refugee. And I was like, I'm living like a refugee. I was as a well-paid refugee, but oh my God, Lisa. I was a refugee with a stock option. So
oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
So they were having another workforce reduction at that company
Mm-hmm.
at the time. They were going to go from 4,700 employees to 1,400 employees. I did what every good person ought to do who's really interested in preserving and protecting their position in a particular company. I left the country.
Right.
Well,
I'm out here.
Well, it was insane. Apartheid had fallen in the rest of the Pretoria regime in southern Africa. It wasn't just about South Africa. It was about Botswana, Lesotho, and Swaziland, and Namibia. There were a whole bunch of countries under that horrible, soul-destroying regime that destroyed, blacks as well as whites. It was awful.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up landing over there and wanted to volunteer at a soup kitchen. It's like, get me out of the state of Indiana. Let me go do something productive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ended up being buttonholed by the Speaker of the House of Parliament. And for the 3 months that I was there, he had me introduced to all of the people, talked with Parliament, talked with some of the members of the government, the ministers of housing and education and business and culture and all this stuff. And when at one point he said, this is a guy named Dr. Mose Chitendero, who was educated at Lincoln University in the United States. He said, why are you working for someone else? I went, I hadn't thought about it. I said, well, I don't know what I need to know to start a business. And he said, my dear, he always called me that, my dear. Before I was Speaker of the House of Parliament, I was a school teacher. I knew nothing about running a legislature, and that's what I'm tasked to do. He said, whatever it is that you need to learn, you will figure it out. Right? And then he challenged me. He said, stop hiding out. So I called back to the United States and told the HR people that I was not going to come back and help run that workforce reduction. I wanted to be one of the first volunteers to go. And that's
I'm out of here.
So I started my company. It's had this, crazy kind of confluence of things. But I started my company to do a lot of the stuff that I'm really passionate about. The team and leadership process and growing companies by growing the people and all of that. I really, I'm really committed to having people make lots more money with lots less time. And have a lot more of that sense of satisfaction and eliminating struggle. I think that the struggle in business is absolutely avoidable, that we can have what we want. And I do that by, coaching and consulting and all of that with the aim of challenging that. I've said this to you before, and you went, challenging conventional business wisdom in a business world that's not conventional anymore.
Yes. And that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about all of that during the show.
I love that. So this is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is. And if I start right now, we'll be right into the show before I tell them more about these three circles. But the thing that I'm really excited about with this show is that we really are. We want to bump up against those conventional things. And we want to begin to look within ourselves as women to define who we are and then take it a step further to launch that person of who we are into the business world in a powerful kind of way. So, Lalita, we've already talked about many different things that we can discuss during the show. So we're hoping for those who are listening that we will get as much in as we can, and that which we don't, we'll just have to do another one. We've already decided that we'll do that. Right, Lalita?
Yeah. See, you twisted my arm, so I'm just it now.
Yeah, I flew all the way down to Indianapolis, and I just, I twisted her arm.
Oh, don't say that. You talked to me in that particular tone of voice that said we are going to do another show, and I was like, okay.
Yeah.
We'll do that.
Let's do that.
Lisa's got that power, passion, and purpose thing down to a fine art.
Listen at you. Mm-hmm. Well, again, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here and giving your time and being willing to share all of the things that you know, and we're going to get into that in just a moment. Let me talk a little bit about the circles, and then we can launch back into this great talk with you, Lalita. And there's a couple of different things that I want to say about you and being here, but I'll do that after I talk about the circles, because I think it's amazing what you did actually to be here, and we talked about that this morning. Mm-hmm. But just briefly, the P3 circles of life are the spiritual self, the emotional self, and the physical self. And what we say within the P3 group is if you push power, passion, and purpose against these circles to form one circle, you'll get what we call the truest, most authentic self. Now, just to kind of uncover a little bit about these three circles, and I'll do that as briefly as I can here with the time that we have, is the spiritual self is, of course, where the spirit lives, where the divine lives, where the purpose lives, where your vision lives. And it really requires one to investigate what you really and truly want. Those that listened to last week's show, we had George Porter talking about what is it that you want? What is it that your heart is really longing for? And the work really is inside of the spiritual self to uncover and distinguish and really be true. I think how Lalita may say it is tell the stank naked truth about who you are and really just be forthcoming about that. So that is the spiritual self, where the spirit lives and where the vision and the purpose of who you are lives. The emotional self is about the thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And sometimes we have thoughts that are consistent and in alignment with the vision, or sometimes we don't. You know, sometimes we may tell ourselves that we can't or we don't know how, and Lalita and I will talk about this today, how we must think like a man or be like a male figure to be successful in business. And that's really just a conversation. There's no truth to that. So the emotional self is about uncovering those conversations and internal dialogues that are inconsistent with this newfound vision that you've uncovered in your spiritual self. And then you have the physical self, which is about manifestation. You know, what actions will you take? Where do you place your body even? Who are you hanging around? What organizations do you belong to? Another aspect of your physical self, which we will talk about in future shows, is your image. You know, is your image in alignment with who you are, or are you pretending to be someone that you're not, and then your image is a projection of that which someone has told you you should be, rather than really being who you are. And then there's also organizing your time and organizing your space and making sure that everything is in order in a manner that your vision can be fulfilled on. So again, after distinguishing and uncovering these three circles, and you begin to pull your power and your passion and your purpose against those three circles then become one. They are now in perfect alignment, and they begin to work so much together that they become one circle. And then in that point, you are living a life of power, passion, and dreams come true, your most truest, most authentic self. So the thing that Lalita and I are excited about is we get to talk about, you know, uncovering that vision and then having that vision manifest in a way that you can live your life completely and wholly in this world of your vision, because you have a successful business, you're taking care of your needs, all of your financial needs, your emotional needs, and everything that you need to really be your truest, most authentic self.
Perfect.
So I think where we, you know, what Lalita and I want to do is just kind of talk a little bit about that. And for those who are listening, if you want to call in and ask a question, or if you want to email us because you don't feel comfortable calling in, that's completely fine. But the number is 347-215-8351. If you want to call in and make a comment or ask a question. If you prefer to email us at questions@thep3group.com. And if we don't address that question in this segment, we'll be sure to do that in our following or future shows. So, Lalita, tell us how, you talked about how you got started, but, what was your vision? What really had you step out there and do it?
I remember, when was that? It was several years ago. I remember reading an article in a magazine that was talking about the results of a conference that IBM had. And it was a global innovation conference that they have every year. And I used to work for IBM back in the Paleozoic era, when dinosaurs roamed the earth and all that good stuff like that. But they were talking about healthcare, and they were talking about the healthcare crisis that we're in. They talked to the doctors that they had gathered at this big conference, And the doctors all said the same thing, and that is that it's our big problem in healthcare is heart-related stuff. And they said that the precursors to all the heart-related stuff that we're getting, the biggest unnecessary killer is high stress, bad diet, smoking. I mean, you know the drill. Poor exercise, and overindulgence in alcohol. And doctors said, we've been saying the same 5 things to people for 50 years, and it's made no difference. They said, in fact, if people, Lisa, had a heart-related incident, that only 1 out of 9 were able to do what the doctors told them to do that even saved their own life. Wow. And to reduce the incidence of angina, which is horrendously painful, and a reduced quality of life. I mean, not just death, but reduced quality of life, living your life in fear. They said it made no difference, and only 1 out of 9 survived. And I thought about that because in business, the first-year survival rate for new business ventures, do you know what that statistic is?
What is that statistic?
It's one out of 9. It's
wow.
1 out of 9. Even and people in business are told the same thing for the last 50 years. Get a business plan, get the right collaborators, get capitalization, develop a marketing plan. They're told the same things, and businesses are still failing at that same rate. That all of our technology, none of it's making a difference in the new business startup failure rate. We've just kind of accepted it. 1 out of 9 will make it. The rest of them won't. In our industry, Lisa, the failure rate is 96% in year 1, not 85% by year 5. Wow. 96% in year 1. And I remember thinking, that is ludicrous to me. In fact, it kind of ticked me off a little bit. That we were just kind of, casual about it. Well, you go into business and maybe you'll make it, maybe you won't, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking that if doctors delivering babies had that 1 out of 9 of the babies and mothers survived, we would be burning hospitals on the street. We'd be burning the hospitals. Right. I thought, how is it, 1 out of 9 people graduated from high school? We'd be outside high schools with pitchforks and torches. And I thought, why are we so casual about it? Right. And it dawned on me that there is a conventional, what we call an is way of looking at business. It just is that way. People don't question anymore. And I started looking at some of the other stuff that people just don't question about business. They just don't question it. And that's, I think, where I'm noting that so much of business failure is coming from. It's that stuff that we assume and assume to be true for everyone else. Did I answer your question? Did I just get off on my soapbox? And
no,
because I tend to do that. I have a good time. I like my soapbox.
I hear you, girl. I think we all like our soapbox. It's not terribly bad because there's truth in that box.
Yeah, there is. Well, I like mine. I think it's a perfectly lovely little soapbox.
Exactly. So. Look, more of us should love our soapbox. We may find some truth in there.
Amen.
Yes, you did. One of the things I heard you say is that, as you began to discover some of the statistics and some of the staggering numbers that were out there regarding business, it struck something within you that you saw that people began to look at business in a conventional kind of way, and they just kind of bought into that conversation about business. And then in some, you didn't say this, but what I hear is that in some ways then people were left with that it's kind of okay, or they became complacent with those statistics and just kind of embraced it and went on with life.
Right.
And in terms of what you saw, you started to create your own world of business to begin to bump up against that conventional way.
Right.
Yeah, and I can see that, and that's a wonderful way for women out there who are looking now regarding their business, for them to just start looking at, what are you bumping up against? You start bumping up against stuff that doesn't work. It's probably something within you that needs to be expressed, and there's a big difference that can be made in the world from looking there.
There's a line in your poem, I Am the One, where you say, like the whole piece of it about I am the one. The thing about for us as women in business is that we don't have to be the only one. I do believe that you are the one that holds the vision. But in terms of sharing that vision and having people help you fulfill that vision, the things that I have said to people before, over and over again in the last, since I started my consulting work 13, 14, 15 years ago, is you don't have to be the only one, you don't have to do it all, and you don't have to know it all.
Exactly.
You don't. There's something kind of peculiar in terms of fulfilling on vision that has people believe that I have to do the Lone Ranger kind of thing.
Yes.
Which makes no sense because everywhere there was the Lone Ranger, there was some other stuff too, right? Like
exactly.
Tonto. So, and wherever there was Batman, there was Robin. Now, a lot of times Robin was tied up.
Right.
Wherever there was Batman, there was Robin or there was the butler. It wasn't Lurch. That was the family.
Right.
It was Alfred.
Right. Somebody was around, right?
Oh, yeah. Lurch was the Addams Family, Lolita. No, it was Alfred. Stop laughing at me. But, we act like we have to do it on our own. When we see people talk, I hear people talking about, the great executives as leadership examples of fulfilling vision, and they talk about Jack Welch, from General Electric. There was Jack Welch, all the rest of the other men and women in the C-suites with him, the CEO, the CFO, the COO, the MOUSC, whoever else was there, and all the people from the board of directors at that leadership level that were sourcing him.
Yes.
He wasn't there on his own, no matter how much we in the Wall Street Journal and all of those other publications continue to promulgate the myth that you are it on your own. It has never, ever, ever, ever been true.
Right.
Never. Not even with the President of the United States. There's everybody in the cabinet.
That's
There's all the
exactly
people on this advisory board. We are never on our own. But there's something, and I've noticed, for those of us in business, particularly for women, men will do that honcho thing until I say, go find some other collaborators and figure this out, because you are stuck on stupid and you're never going to get unstuck if you keep talking to yourself like that. Just don't do that anymore because it's bad. You're in a bad neighborhood and you're walking around in the dark with a sign that says, come beat me, and the person that's beating you will be you. But when I talk to women about that, it's like, no. We won't look professional. We won't look competent if we go out and ask for help, because it's admitting weakness. Now, men have that admitting weakness conversation about fulfilling their vision, and so do we. And both conversations, I don't care to distinguish them any more than they need to be, but they're both ridiculous.
Right.
They're both ridiculous. My vision is worth more than anything, because as I fulfill my vision about more money and less time and more satisfaction and less struggle for me, it opens up a whole other universe about things that I can do.
Exactly.
Creating foundations for people to start new businesses where there's less struggle and less time and more money and more of a sense of satisfaction. All of that's important. Your vision is about more than just you.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's great what you're pointing to, because I'm sure, and you and I have both been there, it's probably why we can speak so powerfully about it, is that, a lot of women are listening now, and they have this huge vision, and they're probably sitting, somewhere over coffee or in a dark room or in their bedroom or, wherever, putting on makeup, probably struggling with how they're going to fulfill on this huge undertaking of a vision that they've created. And one of the things that you're pointing to, Lalita, is that you cannot. You cannot do it by yourself.
No.
And
truthfully, Jesus didn't.
Right.
Truthfully, think about it. Jesus didn't.
Yeah.
The Buddha didn't.
Right.
People didn't. When they talked about that group of, and it was men that came together in, 1776 for the Constitutional Convention, I think it was 1776. And created the Constitution and started writing that stuff. What they did was they created a vision for a country that did not exist as they were putting it on paper. It didn't exist. They were creating this powerful future, and they told everybody on the planet about it. Yes. They were telling everybody. We're out there right now. The State Department is still sharing the vision that these people had in the 1700s.
Yes.
For democracy and liberty and the pursuit of happiness and all of that. They're out there sharing this in Iran and Iraq and all of these places. that you can have your religion and you can have all of these other blessings of liberty, that the blessings of your religion will give you the blessings of liberty as well. That's sharing that vision. If you don't tell people about it, it's not going to happen.
It's just not gonna.
It's not gonna. And it never will happen. When I had told people, I'm going to have a podcast.
Right.
Right. Lisa, this is two years ago. It was the most ridiculous thing I ever said. I didn't have an iPod. I didn't know what a podcast was.
Right.
I didn't have the technology to do it, and there was no money in the budget to create this thing.
Right.
So I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm going to have this podcast, and I'm going to talk, and I'm going to do this, and blah, 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 and we're going to talk about this. And first my clients kind of went, oh, yeah, because then without her beating on us individually, we can listen to her talk to us about the stuff that she's really been wanting to beat us on. I said, yeah.
Right.
So the more I was telling people about it, the more people would call back and say, hey, Lalita, you said you're going to have this podcast. Here's a place where you can get royalty-free music. And here's a place where you can do this. And I want to sit down with you because I got a couple of other people that may be able to help you. And I know this guy in California who may be able to help you put this in. My podcast that I still don't have an iPod, Lisa. I just had this vision for this kind of worldwide conversation about business without struggle.
Yes.
It just won an award. It's one of the top 100 business podcasts in North America.
Yes. Congratulations, too.
Thank
Congratulations.
you. But it was through the power of my vision and the power of me speaking my vision.
Yes.
Saying, this is what I'm going to have. I'm going to challenge conventional business wisdom. Part of that being that you had to have an iPod to do a podcast. I still don't have one, girl. It's miserable. People, Christmas is coming. Get Lalita an iPod.
Get Lalita an iPod.
It's ridiculous.
Someone feel the compassion to send Lalita an iPod.
This is mostly for my husband who's not listening, but anyway.
Well, look, we're just going to have to make sure that he does.
Make sure, honey. Oh, shameless plug. Shameless plug. That podcast is called Like Nobody's Business. In fact, they had told me that the Apple iTunes music store, the big music store for downloaded music and podcasts, the big one. They said, don't be surprised if they don't put your podcast up for maybe 3 or 4 months. And I went, okay, and it went up overnight.
Wow, that's amazing.
So it's like, that there's so much that lines up when you have a vision that's meaningful to you, and you tell people about it. It does become this unstoppable thing. Now, there is this thing that I wanted to share with you. I think we had talked about it.
Yes.
That is that that conventional business wisdom about vision, we had talked about that, Lisa.
Yes, talk about that.
Well, remember we had said that there was this weirdness that said that if you're in business, you have to be in business like a man. You have to be in business like a white man. You have to not show weakness. You have to be the best little shark in the water. It's all of that stuff, right?
Yes.
And I didn't believe that because people had told me, imagine what I look like. I'm a little brown-skinned woman, medium brown skin. I'm 5'4". I have waist-length dreadlocks with a very pronounced shock of white in it.
Which is very gorgeous, by the way, for those listening. Absolutely amazing.
But people have told me you will never be successful with your hair like that. Not only is it in an ethnic style, I'm thinking, how white women tend to wear their hair is representative of an ethnic group, too. That's an ethnic style, too. Right? And, we're just, it's one of those things that's invisible to most people, Middle America. Middle white America, that's an ethnic group, right? And they said that you'll never be successful with gray hair because people don't find women as we age to be entirely enrolling and, blah, blah, blah. And I said, okay, good for you. So I'm going to look for the people who get me because I don't want to work with just anybody. I don't want to work with stupid people. I don't want to work with selfish people. I don't want to work with liars.
Right.
I don't want to work with people who are not willing to challenge their own limits. And if in challenging their limits they have to go, well, I've never worked with a woman of color and the dreadlocks, boy, I'm really not sure that I can get behind that. If they're willing to get out there and step in there, I'm willing to work with them.
Yes.
I'm willing to do that.
Yeah, the thing that you're speaking to now, which is awesome, and I want to just bring some clarity to it, is you're talking about that physical self, like you're talking about the presence of who you are and having that part of you be the expression of who you are versus, what they expect.
Right.
Because I've heard that too, Lalita, where, and particularly for African American women, I think we may have some conversation about, I can't be who I am. I can't, like you talked about your hair and, how you have the gray streak and the dreadlocks, and which I just think is gorgeous. But, some people do have that conversation. And with me, with all natural hair, you can't go into corporate America and secure a multi-million-dollar deal because of your hair.
Nonsense.
Which is ridiculous to believe that, but we've bought into those kinds of conversations. And we believe that it is so true, and that then stops us really from being all of who we can be and really having the vision manifest. One thing, so I think you probably worked with a number of women and heard a lot of different women say different things about that as well.
I have worked with a wide variety of women. I worked with one woman who had been handicapped in a traffic accident. And she worked at, I'm not going to say the name of the company because I don't want people to trace it back to her.
Sure.
But she tried, it was a Fortune 500 company. In fact, it was in the Fortune 100, I think is where it is. And she was a high-level exec. And she was trying to operate without her crutch because she believed that they wouldn't be able to hear her if she had her crutch. She couldn't walk well. It was causing her intense pain, and I said to her, honey, this is who you are, and it's
right.
not them that doesn't get that you can be heard with that. It's you. It's not them. And when she started using the crutch, she said, I could be more of myself. There was so much of her energy that was taken away trying to walk and pretend like she wasn't all of who she was, which included this disability.
Right.
I mean, the lengths that we go to not be ourselves. I had a woman, Tony, I'll remember her name, from Springboard Consulting. She worked with, who's that cat, Michael Gerber from the E-Myth Revisited.
Yes.
She worked with Stephen Covey, the Covey Institute. She'd worked with all those people, and she learned a lot of distinctions around sales. And she said, what I had learned was how to be the best little man out there. That's not who I am. So she put together this whole process mostly for herself about how to deprogram herself about selling like a man and sell like herself with her unique gifts. I mean, there's your vision. I think we had talked about that.
Yes.
And that vision, once that kind of gets all over you and in you, it gives you the way that you express yourself in the world.
Yeah.
And can I share that story I think I'd shared with you about the Dalai Lama?
Yes, please.
The Dalai Lama was at my alma mater, Go Purdue, and this was 3 weeks ago, and it was my second time to see the Dalai Lama. And his English is about as good as my Tibetan, you understand?
Gotcha.
It was horrible.
Right.
Absolutely horrible. So I'd listen, and it sounded like this, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And then he'd say some golden nugget, and I go, whoa! But what he had said about women, he talked for 45 minutes at the outset, and I think he talked to us for about 2.5, 3 hours. 45 minutes about his mother. I mean, this loving tribute to his mother. And everybody got it. He was talking about his mother. And then towards the last 45 minutes, he talked about war and prosperity, about essentially peace and prosperity. And he said, simply, war comes from men. Women don't declare war. Peace comes from women. Poverty comes from men. Prosperity comes from women. And he was so pointed about that. And he wasn't equivocating. He said, I've been all over the world. He said, the people that had me be ejected from my home country were not the women. He said, that's just not in women's energy. But what he said was, he said that we have to be, as women, with all of the gifts that we have as women, and not try to be men out there. Right. He was talking about Angela Merkel. People were asking about, isn't it a great thing that they have the German Chancellor as a woman? And he said it'll be a greater thing when she allows herself to be a woman as the German Chancellor. And I went, my.
Yeah.
Oh my.
You know, that is phenomenal and so great and refreshing to hear, because you know what both you and I both teach is really having women be who they are and being unwavering, unshakable, unmovable about it.
Absolutely. And I think as an extension in that, because I work with a lot of men, there's something about me that resonates with men who want to come over and sit down and let me just smack them across the head this way and smack them across the head this way while I'm
right.
on lapels and saying, did you ever think that was going to work? Did you really? Let's talk
right.
about that. But I find that men are just as limited in their true expression of who they are as we women can tend to be.
Absolutely.
And I think that as we women say in business, I'm not apologizing. I got dreadlocks and a gray streak. I've been trying to hide a gray streak since I was 25, and I looked at the next 3 generations up of my family up into my great grandmother, and I said, "Give up, girl, give up. We all have it. Give up." And so I think that the mystique and persona is something that we need to put down in business so that we can really be ourselves. And I really do say to people, if you have competence and character, people can get everything else. They can get it. I mean, the growth of internet businesses, these people are folks that everybody passed by, like Sergey and Larry, who created Google. They were graduate students from Stanford. Everybody said no to them. They didn't look like what you were supposed to look like. You got Sergey, who has either a French or a Russian accent. They didn't look like that. Everybody told them no until this one person said, tell me a little more. He was somebody who was not limited by his own conventional business wisdom, that said that people are supposed to impress me before I listen to them. Yeah, that's a nasty thing. That's persona and mystique. That has nothing to do with what it takes to be successful.
Exactly. Well, I do have a question for those listening, trying to be in the mind of someone out there that may be listening to this. One of the things that you said is not sell like a man. But sell sell from who you are. Or sell like a woman, right?
So like whoever you are.
Yeah. So how, if you were to maybe break that down a little bit for those listening, what would that look like? How would she do that?
I can talk about how that looks for me.
Yes, right.
Because I don't want to create another, all women should do it this way.
Absolutely.
But I know that we as women have more of a tendency to focus on relationship over task, right? And for women of color, it is more relationship over task, right? So we can tend to get a double dose of it. When I was in Africa, and I'm thinking, I'm meeting with these ministers and speakers and blah, 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 blah. I need to be there on time. I need to be ready to talk and all this other stuff like that. And every time I got there, they kept saying, slow down. Slow down. Did you bring pictures of your husband? We want to see your family. Where do you live? How are your parents? And I'm like, oh, my God, a half hour, 45 minutes. We're still talking about my family.
Right.
Right? So it's that point where I noticed that I wasn't being myself. I was being that person who was adept in this other way of moving in the world that didn't work over there.
Right, gotcha.
So when I stopped and said, oh, okay, well, let me do what I love to do. I love to talk about my family. And here's the crazy stuff that my mother's doing. And let me tell you what my dad's up to and the mischief he's up to and, oh, my nieces and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
That what I realized for myself is I don't like the traditional methodology of sales. I don't like it. I don't like listening for your pain and then speaking in a way that will convince you that the solution to your pain is me. I don't like it.
Right, exactly.
Because I think it's inauthentic for me.
Yeah.
Right? I think it's using people like widgets, and I don't like it when people do it to me, and I don't want to operate in a world like that, so I'm going to be that change that I want to see in the world. I want to develop a relationship with you. What are you about? Tell me what you're about. Tell me what you're interested in. Who are you? Because I want to determine whether or not I want to work with you and not whether or not you can afford me.
Yes.
Right?
Very good. Yeah.
Lisa, I did it the other way, and I did it very successfully. And I had one incident that showed me you can do this, and that's not going to do it for you, honey. And It was a guy who he was starting a company. He had all the money that he needed. In fact, he had an alarming amount of money, and it was going to be around entertainment, and he was going to be with the internet, and it was going to be all this stuff, and it was going to be great. And he had dozens of people lined up to help him. He had all the people that he needs to have in terms of providing the entertainment sources and all this other stuff. I said, great. He wanted me to help him develop his vision, his mission statement, and blah 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 blah. Great. He wanted to pay me huge piles of money. Great.
Right.
And I went, but if I asked like Lalita and not like I've been trained to do, what would I ask? What's the entertainment industry?
Right.
Porn.
Okay. Right.
It was he was building the next internet porn empire. And I was like, oh, okay, got to think about that.
Right.
No, don't want to do that. And I had to turn down the gig. Not because I've got anything against internet porn particularly, but because it would shift dramatically the direction that my business would go. Because then he would say to everybody else that was building an internet porn business, there's somebody that will help you. Here's her name, and I would be the internet porn coach.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's not what you want.
And that's not what I wanted. I didn't want that business, right? I didn't want that business. And I found him somebody else to work with. I said, it's not me. So it was kind of funny. But selling like a man, selling like somebody other than who you are,
right,
inconsistent with your vision, gets you somebody else's vision's worth of stuff.
Yes.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
I see that with people. I'm an adjunct professor. I teach, have taught coaching at New York University, and been senior faculty for places like Results Coaching Systems. It's one of the leading coach development companies. I've got some real distinctions about coaching and about the historical precursors and about the psychological and sociological elements and blah, 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 project management elements and all that stuff. And what I've noticed because I get a lot of coaches who call me and say, Lalita, how do I set up a business? How do I make it work? And they start talking about going to everybody's website and pulling out elements that they liked in everybody's website so that they oh, my God, it gives me a headache. I can feel the vein pop out of my head. I said, stop looking at everybody else's website because, number one, that's stealing somebody else's vision. Don't do it because you'll get their business, which may not need to be your business.
That's exactly right.
Right? So you don't use somebody else's business plan, the elements of their business plan expressed to compete against them, compete on your own merits.
Exactly.
So I had to tell people, start with what your vision is. What are you building and why are you building it? The top two questions. And when I use a process called the one-page business plan and performance management system. I have a license for it, and I am a firm believer in this because I am a firm believer in once you get it takes some process to simplify, to unhook your mind from confusion and simplify your mind enough to say, here's what I really want, and be able to say it in a breath. Instead of, our vision for this is to blah, da, da, and this and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, whoa, stop. Because a lot of times we create this flowery message that's not meaningful. And I talk to people about, answering those top questions. What are you building? Why are you building it? What are you going to measure? How are you going to build it? And what's the work that you got to get done? If you can't fit that in one page so that you can look at it every single day, then you've got a business plan that's meaningless. Meaningless. That's that conventional business wisdom that I keep seeing is that your proposals have to be multi-page and that your business plan has to be 50 pages and that it blah, blah, blah. America Online uses one-page business plans. The CEO has one. The CFO has one. All of these different people have one. The HR unit has one. All the different units have one. They're all online. They're all interconnected. They all update live. They're all communicated to everybody. I'm a firm believer in it, and that's what I do. But it has people answer the questions really simply, particularly the top two. What are you building, your vision, and why are you doing it, your mission? And then once you get those two questions answered, you become an unstoppable force. unstoppable. I've never seen anybody get stopped once they get just those two questions answered. And what most people do when they create their business plan is they start with, what are the results I'm going to measure? Maybe. Mostly is, what do I need to get done?
Yes.
They start with the last question that I would ever ask them.
Right. So the start is, what are you building and why?
And why.
Right. And so much in what I heard you share. It's the vision. You have to start with your vision. And we had originally started with the question of selling, not selling like a man, but selling like you. And one of the things I heard in that is, and we teach this also in our business boost, is that you really look within yourself to see, first of all, who you want to work with. You know, if you have the vision in the forefront of your actions,
right,
you then begin to look through this, what I call an amazing kind of telescope that you're starting to look to see, where am I going to place my body? What type of services am I going to offer? Who am I going to work with? What kind of conversations would I want to have to materialize this vision, so to speak, distinct from doing the traditional selling, like you said.
Yeah.
You know, the traditional methods. You know, I've got to distinguish what the pain is, and now I've got to overcome that, and I've got to build a relationship, and blah, 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 right? Distinct from really coming from that heart, the heart of who you are, and the essence of who you are. And then there's that part also of, you know, you've got to run this thing like a business. I think sometimes when I talk to women, they're clear about the vision, and then they just start to kind of maneuver, which is good because you do want to be who you are, and at the same time, you do want to bring some kind of structure to it, like the business plan that you're talking about.
You absolutely do have to bring structure to it. You absolutely do. But I think that the conversation is, you know, answering I call them the foundational questions, the top two foundational questions. What am I building and why? And then answering the rest of those questions, you know, that I was talking about, the things like, you know, what results am I going to measure and how am I going to build it and what's the work to be done? And then from there, you put together structures that are simple, that allow all of that stuff to go into the background. It's like, you know, what does Thelonious Monk say? That you practice, and then you put all that stuff away and you just blow. He was talking about, you know, this jazz master, that you have to get first a vision, then you've got to practice and structure, and then you put all that stuff away, and then you just let it all rip.
Right,
and
just go for it.
And that's what he did. That's why T. Monk was so good, so good.
Well, you know what? I think this is a good place, too, to talk a little bit about, you know, we were talking about having a big vision, and then sometimes we bump up against ourselves in the emotional self, like we start to complain. We got big complaints.
We don't do that.
None of us
People don't
that,
complain,
right?
no.
We don't complain about how things are going, do we? Yeah, talk a little bit about that.
Exactly. I think that we have in business, I work with business owners and entrepreneurs individually and in groups. I work with management teams and leadership teams, and I get groups of entrepreneurs together in mastermind groups, structured, facilitated mastermind groups that I run so that people can really kind of be in their group.
Yes.
The hardest thing for people to do is to really, really complain about their business. They say this, well, you know, I'm not really kind of making the money that I really want, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, no. And they talk about it like it's a little low-grade fever when if you really got behind, you know, through that quarter-inch of concrete that covers their brains and were able to really listen in, they're like Godzilla in Tokyo. It's killing me. I'm never home. My kids think I'm a liar when I say I'm coming to the soccer match.
Right.
That stuff is just insane. But I think that that part of what gets in our way of fulfilling our vision and keeping our vision alive is being able to tell the truth about our complaints that stand between us and our vision. If I said, you know, hey, look, what's really stopping me from more money and less time and more satisfaction and less struggle and being able to eliminate that 85% failure rate for the first 5 years of new business, and that 15% that survive are like refugees just barely surviving. If I could say that my little pissant complaints, when I really think about them, that I'm pitting those against that future for a business world that I want to see, where we stop manipulating people, we stop manipulating employees, we stop all of that so people can really have the experience of being trusted and respected and valued as customers, vendors, and suppliers. I go, oh, yeah, Godzilla attacking Tokyo. I'm going to have to let that sister go now. I'm going to have to let that go, take off my Godzilla boots. But sometimes I will call people and say, all right, I'm going to complain. I'm going to complain bitterly. There's nothing for you to do except just be there. And if I sound like I'm whining, you need to tell me that I'm whining and not complaining. And I call up kill me, kill them, I'm getting a job at Kmart, that stuff, until I can hear how ridiculous my complaints sound. I think in the mastermind groups that I run, there's invariably a point where each person gets how ridiculous their complaints really sound when they really watch the face of another human being when they say them. I've had people say, well, I can't do it, I don't know enough, blah, 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 blah. And one guy said to another guy in a group, I'll never forget, he said, do you really want us to believe that about you? Because we will if you want us to. And the guy was like, no! And then he said, okay, so maybe you need to stop saying it even to yourself. Most brilliant thing I'd ever heard.
Yeah, I think that's awesome because, we don't as women or men give ourselves an opportunity to tell the truth.
No. And tell the truth out loud so other people can hear it. That's why I said your poem, I Am the One, was brilliant because it also spoke to that I don't have to be the only one.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just a reflection of you.
Right.
You and I are just reflections of other women out there. And so my commitment was to create that for that reason so women could really get, you're not alone in this. And we are only a reflection of you. So any of our successes are reflected back at the listeners.
I absolutely believe that. And, we're talking about vision and putting a structure together so that you have it in a plan that's simple that you can use.
Yeah.
I go around and I do presentations and workshops on this one-page business plan methodology. I tell people everything about how to do it, the whole thing. And people have pulled me aside and asked me, Lalita, why are you sitting down with us for free for an hour and a half and telling us everything that we have to do to create this one-page business plan? And I said, number one, because I know you won't do it.
Right.
Two, I know that once you do it, you can't execute it. And people
have
said that they don't like me when I say that. But then they call me back later and said, I tried it.
And I can't do it.
And I said, and they were like, why is it that, because people don't like being told, like, predictive stuff about themselves. People really don't like that.
Right.
And I said, because here's what's predictable and almost certain here. And that is that the way that you think, where you have to create a big vision, almost like an impossible promise, and a structure around an impossible promise, you don't have the resources to fulfill on that impossible promise where you sit. You have the resources to have exactly the same business that you had yesterday.
Right.
So it's going to take different resources to fill on that vision, that big mission, that big new structure, shiny new structure with maybe some different elements to it, or maybe exactly the same elements but with that shiny new twist to it.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be able to do it on your own because you are, what's that Zen koan? The fish never contemplates the nature of the ocean it swims in.
Right.
Water to the fish, air to the bird,
Right.
That's just it. The bird doesn't think about swimming in the ocean because that's not its bailiwick. Once we get successful at a particular level, it takes an intervention to be able to produce a different result or an improved result, and to have that result be sustainable. That's why I say to people, find a coach. If it's not me, go find somebody else.
I mean, it's imperative. It's imperative. It really is. It's imperative because you're exactly right. You become accustomed to the things that you've done before, and that's really all you can see.
That is all you can see, and it becomes all that is. It becomes all that's possible.
Right.
Too. I hear people. Probably the biggest challenge that I hear people in when I talk to them about, you can create a business plan and we can do this. We can get your management team online. Then when we sit down and we start talking at your monthly management team meetings, we're not doing the management by razzmatazz where people are spinning what they did or didn't do. Everybody's read everybody else's business plan, and your business meetings become coaching sessions and mastermind groups, and you're doing different work with each other. People get scared, and then they start saying, well, I don't think it's, I don't know if it's me, blah, blah, blah. And when I get down to it with people is that they really don't believe that it's possible, because if they couldn't have figured out how to do it, then how can somebody else? And say, hey, I'm not in the tidy bowl with you. Right. I don't see what you see. I see something very different. It's like that kid from The Sixth Sense. I see people. I see ineffective people because I'm not in there with you.
Right.
Because where I'm sitting on the on the sidelines, I'm watching the whole game, and I can see everything that you're doing that's working, and I can see everything that you're doing that's not working in a way that you will never be able to see it in a million years.
Right.
And that's why I'm valuable.
Exactly.
But I think that sometimes for those of us in business, we've been trained to believe it's the Lone Ranger sans Tonto, and we've got to be doing it on our own, which has never been true.
Yeah, it's never been true, and it
doesn't work.
And it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And then again, like you mentioned, with having a big vision that is bigger than you, me, others, there's no way you can do it by yourself.
No.
And
there's no fun in doing it by yourself.
None.
There's no fun.
None. I mean, look at me. I'm having a blast. I'm talking to Lalita.
Oh.
You know, this is wonderful.
And the other thing is, like with my one-page business plan, all of my collaborative partners, they all have copies of it. Boy, did that take some trust.
Yes.
They all have a copy of it.
Yeah.
And I say, here's what I'm trying to do. And they say, well, let me get out that thing you sent me. And
right.
where does it say on that this has anything to do with what you're talking about in business? Oh, okay, so I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, it kind of brings you back, doesn't it?
Yeah, it brings me back from stuck on stupid. If I get a question, I call one of these people. They're creating theirs, too.
Right.
Everybody's sharing them. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
And I'm creating a business world that's about collaboration and truth and about having a great vision and having a party telling people about it and fulfilling on that rascal.
Absolutely. And there's no better way than to fulfill on your vision with great friends and great collaboration.
That's true.
You know, so I'm ecstatic. One of the things I wanted to say, and I want to make sure that we give the audience an opportunity to contact you, but I wanted to thank you. Thank you for being here. I know that you bumped into a little health scare on yesterday. And so I get the love and commitment that you are to me and our audience, and I just wanted to personally thank you and tell you how much I love and appreciate you for being here in the face of that. And I know you're feeling better and you're coming back, and I just want the audience to know that she was committed to being here, even said to the doctors, look, fix me because I have to be on the show tomorrow.
I have to be on the show tomorrow. I am so honored, first, that you asked me to come and play in your sandbox with you.
Yes.
And we've been looking for years for ways that we could get together and create some mischief together. So this is, folks, this is the beginning of the mischief. We have no idea what this is going to look like, but there's going to be more mischief to come. So I want to tell you, I really appreciate when I get an invitation to play in somebody else's sandbox. I know that that's a real expression of love. So I want to thank you for that, and I love you too.
I love you so much. We'll have to make sure that we come back, and maybe next time we can talk a little bit about innovation.
Oh, my God, that'd be great. Oh, I do want people to be able to reach me if they want to challenge what I've said and say, no, honey, I ain't it. Can I give my email address and some of the other contact
information? Your website and how to listen to your podcast?
My blood type, my social security number. Okay. My name, again, is Lalita Amos, Queen and Princess of, actually Managing Director, Total Team Solutions.
Yes, so cute.
Hush up. Total Team Solutions. If I want to be Queen and Princess, I mean, I like
you can.
That's right. Who says I can just have to be one? TotalTeamSolutions.com. My email address is llamos, A-M-O-S, at TotalTeamSolutions.com. Podcasts can be found if you go to my website. There's a link at the top that says podcast. Click that, and you can actually listen to it from my website. No additional equipment necessary. If you've got a comment about any of the shows, you can go to my blog, which is totalteam.blogspot.com. Wow. And thanks for listening, everybody. This was fun, Lisa.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, for listeners, if you want to listen to this segment again, just go to the p3group.com/P3radio. That's THE, the letter P, number 3, group.com/P3radio. If you like a copy of that poem that we were talking about, just go to www.passion4poetry.com. www.passionforpoetry.com. And certainly be sure to stay tuned next week as well. We're going to have Gabriella Matthews, who is a successful divorce attorney from Durham, North Carolina, and she's going to be talking about choosing motherhood while practicing law and being single. So this was a powerful choice that she has made. We're really going to talk about how she came to such a powerful choice, and it's going to be a great, great conversation between Gabriella and I, and she's even going to talk about some of the emotional blocks that were in the way regarding her vision of having a child. So, again, this has been fantastic, Lalita. You know, you have to look at your calendar now and just say, look, you know, we're going to do this, girl. We're going to do this. We'll come back and talk about more about business, talk more about vision and how we can make things happen for ourselves and these ladies out there. So,
deal.
Is that a deal?